All right, so here's a, this time we're going to be talking about jumping, or rather jumping off of something, landing, absorbing the impact. And so it's jumping, falling, and landing. So anyway, so let's start from scratch. I'll set that one to hold mode. That one's like that. Okay, good. So this one I can lock. Now, first things first is I want to figure out, where do I want the person to start? So this is just a basic framework. I can figure out, how much space I'm going to use up on my piece of paper. So you got to plot out, how much space you intend to use up, and, where do I want him to land? So, I mean, he can land, right here, right? Or I can have him land over here, right? So where he lands when he's going to jump off of a height, very important. So, if I want, here, let's try a short jump. The other one was a longer jump. And earlier, I did the same template, but I wasn't able to stick to the template. So I'm going to redo this just so I can, see if I can hit the same target. All right, so there's the geometry there. And let's see, I want him to land here. So where do I want his toes to land? I want his toes to land right about there. Okay, so this is going to be the impact point for his feet when he lands. So stretch his body out like so. That is the falling. And so when he lands, boom. I'm trying to think now if his head and body are up here. This hand, this head, they're all going to have to compress. All right, that hand, where does it land? Maybe about here. Okay, there we go. His bum. There. Okay, there we go. All right, something like that. And then he will then get up. Maybe, I'm looking at the path of his head right now. Right? I have to look and see how large is each segment, right? So you have to maintain the volume of each segment. I mean, there's squash and stretch, but even when you squash and stretch something, like if you take something that's really big and you pull it, right, it will stretch out and will become thinner. The total volume of a mass as you pull it is always maintained. So even when you have squash and stretch, you don't reduce the overall amount of volume. It simply goes through compression and extension. So that's what I'm trying to do right now, is I'm trying to figure out how I want him to get up, and what that overall shape is going to be when he gets up. In fact, I think when his head comes down here, there's going to be some momentum. There we are. The momentum has been converted from downward movement, right, into sideways movement. The momentum and energy has been redirected because of the toppling effect. Remember the toppling effect, how I talked about how tall objects like this, how when they are slanted, gravity, which is a completely downward vector of force, is converted into a horizontal, partially converted into a horizontal force. It's the movement becomes horizontal. Right, it gets redirected. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to deal with that quantity of force and keep it consistent. Right, that force has to be absorbed, and then the person has to get up. So I'm drawing all this stuff together in my plan for the getting up action or animation. And at the same time, I had to figure out things like where the feet are going to go. So I think maybe what I'll do is when he lands, it won't be a complete... I got it. I'm going to keep the arm down there. Keep this anchor point here. So he is now going to absorb some of the recoil, some of that movement with his arm. And then his arm essentially acts like a leg almost, right? Because that arm undergoes compression and extension. And There we are, right? Now I can begin extending this leg here. So there, now you can see how this head is beginning to move, and we keep using that. Let's keep, using that same movement up there. All right, so this is all just the landing. This is not the actual fall and the drop, but this is me planning out where I want him to land and being able to be in control of the landing itself. And now I can transition from there back into a run, right? Transitions are so important, because if you're going to be animating for video games or, well, I don't know, cartoons or that kind of thing, this is going to be just, your basic bread and butter of stuff that you have to deal with, right? In animations, or any fighting games, you're going to have to deal with this kind of thing. So, I'm just trying to, deal with that transition from one action and movement into another. So there, now we see how this landing, right? We see how the landing works here. And now I have to, in my head, in my mind, I have to reverse this. I got to play it backwards. So, right, there, I'm playing it backwards in my head now. And so I see the feet as there. That's where the jump, the foot is, this is the path of the foot that I'm tracking now. All right, so now I'm working in reverse. And all of this is just the plan. I'm merely planning at this point. I haven't done any animation. This is all done on the same frame. This is just my animation plan. And then I can have him, right? So I'm transitioning back to the standing position. All right. If anything, his height here, right, has been maintained. His height there has been maintained. It's just we ran out of space here. So, in this case, because I haven't animated any other frames, I can cheat. I can take this thing and I can size it down. I can move it until things are back in a proper framing, right? I can resolve the composition, and then I can go right back into painting this thing. Right, get his head there. Now his head is no longer cut off, and I can. So I have the thing where he leans forward, he topples, and there's the first movement. There, good, done. Right, that's my animation breakdown. Okay, good. So I'm going to take this thing, I'm going to turn it transparent, lock the layer so I don't accidentally paint on it, throw a new frame, a new layer and frame on top, and begin. Let's have him stand. 8 minutes in. 8 minutes and 30 seconds. All right. Throw in a new frame. So now it's really like, topple him forward. And, maybe in this case, I will even bend his knee. Right. So let's bend. There we go. And then there we go. So he takes the first step. Now I throw in an in-between. So I look at this knee, right? This is the pivot point, and the knee has to rotate like so. So, that's there. And so that means that his leg will be straight here. See that? And see how that bends and rotates down. So, there. So there's a bit of a... In fact, I think I want a little bit more flexion. Let's get some more flexion in there. Much better, much better, right? And then the other leg, there. Okay, good. So I'm recapping the walk movements. Keep going, like, you got to keep your momentum up. So this head now is going to move down into this arc. it looks like I'm going to need an in-between from here to here. So I'm tracking this thigh right now. Right? Because that's why. Because this thigh is going to get us into that in-between. So you're always looking for transitions. And then I think between here and here, I can do another in-between where he's still standing. Right? And now I can add another in between. Let's launch. Let's jump him off. I don't want to launch him too hard on the horizontal axis. Otherwise, he's going to overshoot. We have to get him to land on a spot. So if you're doing any martial arts movies and you need him to land on like a post or something like that, you're doing any parkour animations, this is why. All right. So in this case, I'm going to jump ahead several frames and let's get that, right? This is where we're going to get the target. And then from here, I throw in my in-between. So I don't like the feeling of this. I'm going to get rid of it entirely. Okay. Maybe I'm going to just track his bum right now. Just track the bum. So that's where the bum position is then. I need that bum to follow kind of a parabolic trajectory. So throwing in between. Throw another in between. Now I'm just, the reason I'm just seeing it like this is completely my right brain taking over. That leg shooting out, that just came to me automatically. That's not a conscious action. So I can't really explain why. It's just, I guess I've done my homework. If you set up your frames properly, if you have done your homework in terms of your planning and you understand what goes on, then it becomes automatic. It becomes an unbidden response. You don't really have a say in the matter at that point. It's just, it becomes instinctive at that point. Now I want to throw in, yeah, there's like a giant jump in there. So. Okay, good. So now I can begin to work out the rest of the body. In fact, I think I'm going to bend him. It's weird. Like now my brain is beginning to put together this thing in reverse. We're running out of time, but that's okay. I'm almost done. In fact, I just finished. Wow, actually here, I'm gonna go a little overtime just to finish this guy off. All right, so that I don't have the landing yet, but I'm gonna just keep on tracking that bum. Right, so the thing is, I know that the head's coming here. I see the arc. That's not an in-between. Now I'm going straight forward. It's a straight ahead animation right now. But I mean, I still have my animation plan. So that arm with the elbow here, this is the forearm. I'm going to track that. All right, so that's where the shoulder was. In fact, I think I'm going to begin to flex that arm downwards now. Throw in the in-between. There, now we have contact. And now I can ease it forward, right? You'll notice how a lot of times, you know, I start to fuse things together. After it's like I stop joining things. Like sometimes things get separated, sometimes they get fused together, and it's really dependent on how much things work together as a unit. And as I work with it more and more, you know, I begin to see the relationships between things, and it just naturally becomes more and more fluid. But it's something that, you know, it's subconscious. It's not something that I really have much of a say in, so it's kind of hard to teach it. It's just you have to get yourself a good animation setup, and you know that's only facilitates. It only makes it so that this stuff is possible. But then you actually have to, you know, put the effort into animating, or you know, trying this stuff out. Oops. On a final frame. Well, actually, I think I'm going to move that forward. Yeah, that looks better. Okay, so there we go. And maybe one more frame, because now I'm going to track this, you know, this segment, the shin. Let's track that position. It's too high up. So back to the bum position, which I'm tracking. Track the shin. Carry it forward. We're back into a sprint. Now we're... Boom. Boom. So I can go to at this point, I can go into a stand, right? Or... you know, if I want, I can just keep that low stance. Just keep it tilt. Don't have to pull it up so much, right? So I mean, that can become like that. You see how I'm adjusting things, right? I like that more. All right. Anyway, until next time.